Alright, we're gonna make a test today. I haven't done one of these in a long time, and this thing has been getting extensive use in here. I got this sent to me from EP Integrations. I did a little short about it when I was first playing around with it and checking it out. This machine is probably the easiest to use annealing machine that I could imagine. And what I'm basically going to do is a test here to see how perfectly annealed brass stacks up to my old hand annealing method. Everybody pretty much anneals for maximum brass life as a general rule of thumb. But the second thing is the consistency of neck tension that you get when everything's annealed uniformly. And I don't always get that. My annealing lines sometimes when I'm hand annealing will creep down or be a little small, or I'll get them a little too hot. And where these are all just absolutely perfectly uniform. And so these are all once fired brass range pickups, and these are all once fired brass range pickups. I'm going to hand anneal these and kind of show you that process. These have been annealed, and so I've got 50 here and 50 here. Part of the ease of use here is just the way this machine sets up. You've got like a little wingy nut here to adjust your depth of your tray. This is like a little holding hopper. This machine turns as a wheel, and you drop one piece of brass at a time in that tray, and then it gets cooked by the flame. So all these adjustments just adjust with little wing nut. You set this to a depth, and this plate threads in and out on this, so you can adjust the depth. So that way your necks are just rolling right on this little edge here. And so as they say, you can anneal anything from like 17 Fireball all the way up to 50 BMG is kind of their claim to fame. And I mean, most of what I do is 223 and 308, and it works perfectly for that. So, you know, a quick machine setup looks something like we'll adjust this depth in a tiny bit so that the pieces rest at a good spot. I like them a little further off of this lip, so that way the flame is a little further away from everything. So we'll adjust this out. See, and they still sit there. You don't want them falling off, but you don't exactly need them to be super close to all your components either. So you just hand tighten that. This is your stopper, and it gets really hot, and it's hot right now, but I generally just keep it a little bit, like a 1/4 inch away from the plate and about a 1/4 inch away from the wheel. And I don't have really any problems to speak of. So as you can see, all you've really got to do with this machine is just load it and make sure your flame is appropriately set. Yoink, a little bit of orange, just what I like to see. And I'm just gonna run through all 50. Just orange, see? Just the flame turning orange only. That's how I like. Everybody does it different. This company has their own instructions for how to anneal. I just do them the way I do them. I can pretty much roll through 50 brass on this machine in couple minutes. And what I generally do is I'll just take a bunch of once fired range pickups and just, you know, do like 500 at a time and keep them in a bag. So pretty simple to use machine. Okay, so now these are done. You can see the consistency of the anneal lines. These are really hot, so I gotta kind of handle them gently here. But you can see they're annealed absolutely just perfectly consistently. This machine stays hot for a minute, so I just leave it up on the bench until it cools down. And I also leave this running. I don't know if it needs to be left running, but I just like it to be kind of rotating and letting heat dissipate, so that way hopefully it lasts longer, it doesn't get into the bearing. This machine goes for like 250 bucks, and as long as I could go before having to buy another one. Like, this might be a lifetime machine if you are careful with it. So I just shut everything down, let it cool off, and I'm gonna hand anneal these 50, and I'll show you what that looks like, and then we'll put together some loads. So this is quite the haphazard setup. It's noisy, but I will do this to demonstrate how I have hand annealed brass since I re-picked up hand loading here. I've been doing them like this for long time. And we can have a look at the consistency. You can tell there's some consistency issues. This one, not quite as annealed. This one, not quite as annealed. Some more than others. For brass life, the brass lasts. It lasts just fine. This seems to do okay, and I get good accuracy. The question is, will I get better accuracy than the perfectly consistent stuff? So here's a quick look at hand annealed brass after washing versus the machine annealed brass after washing. Not a whole ton of difference there. You can see now that it's clean. It's all once fired stuff. It's all pretty good stuff. Quickly, something that I have noticed, having a good chamfer doesn't really make a ton of difference. I think it keeps little shavings from getting shaved off the jacket, which is good, but other than that, I don't think it does a whole ton. But I think that deburring is one of the most important parts of this process, because that tiny little bit of burr can cause interference in the chamber and cause basically a tiny bit of canting in the chamber by the loaded ammunition. When I started paying extra close attention to deburring, see the chamfer, I just put a tiny chamfer. But when I deburr, I go around it from different angles and I make sure to get a thumb and a fingernail all the way around the shell to make sure that it's deburred, completely deburred. And when I started doing that, my accuracy significantly improved. Okay, now for primers, I run a hand priming tool. I think the RCBS one is probably the easiest one to use, but this Hornady one does just fine. I don't get super crazy with primers. What I've decided I'm going to do is I'm going to do 25 73 grain ELD match, and then I'm going to do 25 75 grain hollow point boat tails. This is the machine annealed batch, and then I'm going to do the same exact loadings with the hand annealed batch. We got 25 grains of accurate 2460. This is a sub MOA load almost every time I shoot it. I'm going to also seat these to 2.260, and we'll go from there. The Me-Plats on hollow point bullets are a little bit uneven. If you guys aren't familiar, you know, they just take a copper sheet and then swedge it up into a shape, fill it with lead, and then swedge it again, so this isn't always perfectly even. Here's the bore. A little bit of carbon in the back. Pretty clean of copper. Pretty clean of carbon.